I use marker pens on paper, and it will be usually some sort of very slight thing that triggers me to make a drawing, not really a fully formed idea, maybe just a spark of something. And I don't overly think what it might be. I apply lots of lines and build up density of colour onto the surface of the paper. I use different types of mark, and often there's a lot of movement in the drawings. What I want a drawing to do is to escape from any intention or thoughts that I might have had, initial thoughts I might have had about it, and to surprise me, so to become something unexpected. So it just evolves in the process. It's quite an intuitive process. Castlefield Gallery approached me to do a two-person show, and I was very keen immediately to work with Daniel Silver because I really like his work and have followed his work for quite a while now. So I went to meet Daniel, and he very graciously accepted the offer, and it's been a year in the making. And so for that time period, I've been really thinking and looking and selecting pieces from Daniel. I haven't made work in direct response to what Daniel does. I feel like I've been living with them for a year, and they've left an impression in my mind, and that impression has somehow seeped through into the drawings that I've made this year, which you can see in the show. And so there's this connection between the works.
Nina's work and my work very well off each other, and they build these relationships which are to do, I think, with movement, touch, color, and space. 4 of the works in the show were made with a dancer in my studio, Darren, who comes from a dance company called Chua and Daniel. And he comes for 2 or 3 days of sessions where he dances in the studio and I sculpt. He takes care of the music compilations, and it's just a kind of movement of ideas, shapes and forms, which becomes very sculptural. The works are made in clay, which are then fired, and after they're fired, I paint them in oil paint. So they have this skin, or this kind of second life, which is the oil paint. So you forget the fact that maybe it's clay, and it becomes more like a painting. Or, as Barry Schwowski said, sculpture by means of painting. Golem in Prussian Blue was made with Darren the dancer, which is very strange because it doesn't look like Darren at all. It looks more like me looking in the mirror in a really bad day, you know. And the body, his torso, could be seen from the side like a cushion. So how did that happen when the dancer was in the space? I think that's the kind of beautiful moments that happen in the studio. I can't explain it. The idea of the golem is very much about that, about things happening in the studio, things which you didn't really experience before and didn't really want to make happen. And I think he kind of welcomes us into the show with lots of questions. Who is he? Why is he like this? What is he looking at? Where does he come from? For us to then start trying to figure out.
I think when you bring 2 artists' work together, it creates a psychological space which is very different from when you show your work in a solo show. And it's really important as an artist to see your work alongside the work of other artists and to see the differences between them. And it's 2 different minds in this show, you know. There's the Daniel and the way he works, and then there's the way I work, and you know, there are crossovers, but there are things that we do very differently. And so I think it's really interesting to think about the work in that context. I think it's a very generous show, and I really want the audience to feel a sense of vibrancy that I think is in both of the works, and I think it's something that is very needed at this moment, you know, to come to an exhibition and to feel that sort of sense of life and something joyful and vibrant in the work. So I really hope that the audience feels that.
I want them to take away possibilities of making, you know, possibilities of thinking. Ideally, I want them to go back and try and make themselves, because both the works that I'm showing and the works that Nina's showing are very much using materials that are very easy to get our hands on, like clay, paper, or felt tip pens. Maybe I'd like people to walk away from here and say, okay, let's try it. Or if not try, they could try and imagine where these works come from and kind of build on the imagination of these works.